Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us in our session today. We are so very glad to have you. So grateful that you can take the time out and join us in our discussion today. So, as you can see on the screen, this is the topic of our discussion: empathy and compassion, keys to resilient, connected societies. So, today, Srishti Shankar, that's how I pronounce my name, and I have my co-facilitator with me, Abdelslam Alfaki, joining from Sudan, who would be my co-facilitator, as I mentioned in the session. And let's begin. So before we start, actually, let's go back to this slide. Let's start with some ground and housekeeping rules. So as you know, this session is being recorded. So the only way to communicate and to drop down your suggestions, how you're feeling about the session, is through the chat box. So really urge you to utilize the chat box and tell us how you're feeling about the session, if it's something that you expected, if there's something more that you would like to hear from us in the upcoming conferences. So please feel free to utilize the chat box really well. And we would, if time allot, we would, if time permits, we would take 5 to 10 minutes towards the end. So if you have any questions, utilize the chat box and we will cater to those questions. And I would request my co-facilitator, Abdel, to interact with the audiences and if they have any doubts. So Abdel will be taking care of it in the chat box section. So let's begin. So before we start, I would like to introduce myself and my co-facilitator, Abdelslam Alfaki. I would have him on board and introduce himself. So who am I? So my name is Srishti Shankar. As I mentioned earlier, that's how I pronounce, and I know it's very difficult to pronounce for someone who is not from India. So as you can see, and also to mention, our slides will have a lot of QR codes like so. So please feel free to capture them, take screenshots if you are using your phones to be a part of this event and the session. And if not, you can just, just scan it. So I am representing as a regional youth lead, Asia Pacific region for Unite Global, which stands for Youth United for Impact in TB Elimination. I like to call myself and introduce myself as a budding researcher because I love research and quantitative, qualitative both. I have extensive experience of 4 years in strategic communications and SBC, which stands for social and behavioral change. And I like to call myself as a networking fanatic. So that's a little bit about me. That's the QR code where you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And I would like for Abdel to introduce himself now.
Hello everyone, marhaba. My name is Abdelslam Alfaki. Thank you very much, Srishti. I'd like to say that I'm very grateful for giving for you to attend this session with us today. I'm very grateful to you. And my name is Abdelslam Alfaki. I have a bachelor degree in pharmacy. And actually, I'm a fresh graduate and the director and founder of Evil Air Initiative, which is a Sudanese initiative founded and created in response to the ongoing conflict in Sudan. And our main mission is to address the immediate challenges of displacement and inequality by providing education, skill training, essential services, and public health knowledge to leverage the public health system of all people in Sudan. And also, I am, as I said, I'm a fresh graduate, so that's leave me with a bit being a public health advocate and awareness campaign leader with a big extensive background as a disease prevention and a research analyst advocate with various organizations in Sudan. So I'm very happy for speaking in this session with Srishti today. And over to you, Srishti. Go on.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And I can see Dr. Mansoor commenting. We would be sure to share our LinkedIn links as well in the chat box towards the end of the session. So let's go ahead. Okay, before we really begin and really set our base with our session today, this is the question, a little food for thought for you. And I would like you to think of the terms empathy and compassion and really, really give yourself 30 seconds. And I would like for you to put in the chat box what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about these terms, empathy and compassion. We'll wait for almost 30, 40 seconds to hear from you if you have some burning scenarios and words that you can give us. And then we would move on to the next slide. Okay, I see peace, justice, Lance, right? Kindness, kindness and respect. Yes, Rebecca. Honesty. Yes, Rebecca. I agree. Love on your right. Empathy is feeling for someone, hurting someone, and wanting help. Yes, absolutely. And love. Yes, of course. Almoasha, kindness. Thank you. That's lovely. Thank you so much for being so active. It really means a lot to I and Abdel. Thank you so much. We would be for sure to check all of the lovely words that you're using. Now, we do not aim to bore you, really. So we are really obliging you to feel free to interact with us through the chat box, and Abdel I would be interacting with you, right? So this is a really open and a safe space. If you do not agree with something, there is a disagreement, we would love to hear from you that if that's the case as well. And this is what you can expect from us in the next 60 minutes. So we would be decoding the difference between empathy, sympathy, and compassion. And we would try to really talk about the concept of active empathy and give in-depth insights on conflicts and wars. Importance of SDG, which stands for Sustainable Development Goals, and its interlinkage with empathy and compassion. We will also talk about, very importantly, youth-led initiatives and empathetic skills, which are the dire need of the hour for the youth like us. And we will also, I'm so excited for this part, also get to hear testimonials and case study from Sudan that Abdel conducted, and we will also have Q&A if time permits, hopefully. So yeah, we will be sure to not bore you, and please help us in making this a very interactive and engaging session by interacting with us in the chat box. Right. So to just form the base, and I know most of you would be thinking, or might not be thinking that empathy, sympathy, compassion are the same components, and we can for sure use it interchangeably. And I would also like to mention these are very, very subjective subjects. So I know thousands of research papers exist. We have 200 plus researchers working on these topics of empathy, sympathy, and compassion. Having said that, these are something that I and Abdel think is very, just gives an universal overview. And these are different terms, actually, empathy, sympathy, and compassion. And please utilize the chat box to also let us know if you agree with us or not, because this agreeing is also okay. So starting off with empathy. So empathy, as Felipe also mentioned in the main opening session, is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, putting oneself in their shoes and experiencing their emotions, right? So take a little 30 seconds and sit that sentence, let that sentence create magic and feel what you have to feel about what I just said. Sympathy, on the other hand, is different, of course, from empathy, because it has to do more so with the feeling of being concerned, pity, sorrow, and feeling sad for somebody else's hardships, right? And in this situation where we are sympathetic for somebody, we are not I mean, it's very possible that we are not able to understand their emotional experience. Correct. And yes, as rightly mentioned by Saurav Kumar, I can see in the chat. Yes, these are three. Correct. Compassion is the recognition of another suffering by a deep desire to help or alleviate it. Right. And compassion is very important because it is the step forward to taking action to address the other person's distress. With that, right. I love this concept, and I feel so intrigued by the fact that I actually talked to a couple of my friends if they know about active empathy, and to my surprise, they did not. And it's not a bad thing, honestly. Let me tell you that it's totally fine because it's the starting of really getting into the depth of how we can really make the change that we really want to create. Right. So I will not also go into the details of, as you can see, empathy is studied across fields of biology, psychology, education, medicine, and neuroscience. I am a biology student, and I will not get into the biology, but empathy is related to the mirror neurons. We have different types of neurons in our body, and mirror neurons, they generate the feeling and they help us in feeling empathetic towards somebody's situation. It really helps us to so that we can keep ourselves into the shoes of the other person. That's what the mirror neuron does. And we have emerging field in psychology which supports the existence of empathy and also provides different frameworks also available in the medicine and neuroscience field to really understand the concept. So, also to notice empathy, the concept has evolved over the past centuries, and it consists of three dimensions. The first dimension being the ability to perceive, recognize other emotions, which is innate and develops soon after birth. You don't have to worry if you think, honestly, like this sentence does not resonate with me, because in the next slide, I would also include that it is something that we all can develop, right? So the second dimension involves the ability and desire to understand another's inner emotions. And I would like to again bolden the fact it can be cultivated throughout life. The third dimension is feeling another's emotions while maintaining a distinction between self and other. So it's so easy to get really, you know, deep down blue emotion when we come across something so threatening, like we get to experience from the life of other person. But you're not able to differentiate between having to feel bad for their situation and to just, take the next step and action and help them. So the ability of, the concept of active empathy is what, that really differentiates between the two. So what active empathy does is it differentiates for us to form deeper emotional connection, and it differentiates also acts as a full stop. Okay, this is the person of the this is what I'm feeling about the other person. This is what my emotions are, which is mine, and facilitates an action, which is the need of the hour. Any questions? Please feel free to utilize the chat box, and I'll get back to it. All right. Now I would, yeah. So now I would want you to take a brief moment, take a minute or two to really think about what can a global society look like. We discussed about empathy, sympathy, and compassion. Imagine it all exists in our world and every community exists peacefully globally. What will it look like? Do you think it's possible? Put it in the chat box. Would love to hear if it's really possible. Yes, Karen Ball says, nature centered, recognizing that we are all connected, of course. Love that. Okay, without other further ado, please keep them coming. Um, this is what it looks like. I mean, we did a very mere thing that anybody would do. We asked ChatGPT, the AI, to generate a globally connected, peaceful society, and this is the image it gave us. It gave us. It has dove. It has earth, different nationalities, as you can see. Everybody is in harmony, in peace, and talking, and it's a connected society, right? Isn't it beautiful? Right? It is so beautiful. Of course, it is possible. It is, for sure. Right. Thanks so much for responding. Now, I would like Abdel, my co facilitator, to step in and take the next bit.
Thank you very much, Srishti. It was very beautiful insight to share with us. But before we begin going furthermore, I want to issue a brief trigger warning because the content we will discuss today includes some type of description of war, violence, and human suffering, which may be triggering and distressing for some participants. So if you need a moment, please feel free to step away or reach out for support. And our goal is to raise the awareness and foster the understanding, but we also respect the emotional impact that these topics may have. So thank you for your understanding. And like I said, going to the next slide. Uh, Now let's take a moment to explore some of the most pressing and ongoing conflicts around the world. Each of these conflicts had a profound impact not just on the regions they occur in, but on the global peace and stability. In this slide, you will see that there is six major conflicts, ranging from the Israeli-Lebanon conflict to the ongoing war in Sudan. As we go through this, I encourage you to reflect on the role of empathy and compassion that could play in addressing this crisis and what we, particularly as youth, can do to make a difference. So, I'm going to give a brief overview of each of the mentioned conflicts. So, about the Lebanon conflict, which had been reignited in 2023 and continued to this day, while the exact number of casualties remains underrated or underreported. The conflict has exacerbated existing tensions in the region, leading to significant humanitarian challenges, including displacement and loss of a lot of lives. Also, in the Russian Ukraine war, as you can see, the Russian Ukraine war, and most of us know that it had begun in 2014 when Russia annexed the Crimea, escalating into the full scale conflict we see today, which had begun in February 2022. And this war has resulted in thousands of deaths, widespread destruction, and humanitarian crisis, with millions displaced and in need of assistance across Ukraine and its neighboring countries. Also, going to the internal displacement due to the local constituents, we can talk about the Gaza conflict, which had been happened since 2023, leading to significant disruption not just within the region, but also impacting the communities worldwide. The violence had prompted international outcry and humanitarian efforts. The humanitarian situation in Gaza has deteriorated, many civilians suffering from the repercussions of ongoing military actions. So, uh, not just mentioning this, but going through Myanmar, the insurgencies in Myanmar, since 1948, Myanmar has been blocked by insurgencies driven by legal and ethnic disputes, leading to ongoing violence and instability. Various ethnic armed groups has sought autonomy and recognition, so resulting in a protracted conflict that has displaced millions of created significant humanitarian challenges in communities. And at the end, we can, as myself being a Sudanese resident now in Sudan, I can say that Sudan has faced a brutal war since April 2023, marked by severe humanitarian crisis and widespread displacement, as it all in common comes to the horrible things happen to the people who just fled out from their homes. It had been reported that over 10 million people being displaced, with many lacking access to essential activities and facing a lot of differences and social fragmentation. So, which lead us to the next question. In the next slide, you see what does the current statistics state? We mentioned that there's a lot of conflicts happening now, and it had been begun from several years in the past. So the UNODC said that more than 740,000 people die each year as a result of the conflict-related violence. And also, as the UNDP mentioned, that every 11 minutes there's a person die due to the violence. And this is not just this is not just statistics, but this is an actual this is an actual crisis happening right now in the world. As we dive into the discussion today, let's keep these numbers in our mind and consider all of this data and reports, and see how empathy and compassion can be a catalyst for change in such dire circumstances. Let's dive deep and go into the next slide. As we see here, this is a map titled by the death rates in armed conflicts based on where they occurred from 1989 to the 2023. So these armed conflicts impacted globally more than 100,000 people, leading to a significant disparities and impact of civilians, going from as low as one death per 100,000 people to up to 300 deaths per 100,000 people. And this number doesn't stop here, but it's going furthermore unless we make something to stop it. We all know that this is problems that we need as a young people to address, to recognize, and to work on solving this. So now that we have discussed the challenges and the role that empathy and compassion will be as a solver for these problems, let's help ourselves to explore furthermore. So I'm going to introduce my co-facilitator, Srishti, who will dive deeper into how youth-led efforts can drive change and uh, can harness empathy and compassion in our communities. So, Srishti, over to you.
Thank you so much for that, Abdul. Thank you so much for sharing about all the wars and conflicts that we have going on as we currently speak. Imagine we are here online, and I'm not derailing it or demeaning it in any way, but we have so many things and conflicts and wars going on globally. Right. So now I would like for you to invest 30 seconds and really envision how we think. How do you think we, the youth, can make a difference in this situation? What I mean by the youth, I believe, and I'm sure that people who are attending the session are in their teens, 20s, early 30s, or maybe more than that, how we can make this situation better. And is there any way we can use the pillars of compassion and empathy to change the society? We talked about sympathy, compassion, empathy, active empathy. Do you really think we can use those concepts to bring the change? Think about it, and please utilize the chat box, as I mentioned earlier, to make it more engaging. We would love to hear from you. Abdul is constantly also, I can see you replying. So that would be lovely to hear from you. I'm going to give you the answer in the next slide. Hello, Rahman. It's so lovely to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining. Greetings from India. Yes, through education, fundraising, donating money, of course, Rebecca. All right, thank you. So the answer is 100% yes. Now, we would like for you to stick with us for a couple of minutes. I know we have a lot of session going on, ongoing, so we just take a couple of minutes to like go ahead and discuss it. Okay, this is my favorite diagram. Um, the top-notch reason being, this is how the global global people leaders across think, right? I will not go much into like why this diagram, why these pillars, and why the youth is in the middle. I mean, in the bottom. But I would just want to mention we have something called Sustainable Development Goals, which has been crafted by the United Nations. It came into the effect in the year 2015, which was a recreation and addition to the Millennium Development Goals, which was crafted in the year 2000. And those have been acting as a very important concept globally, especially for the developing nations, to catch pace with the developed ones and to bring about the change and the impact which we wish to see. Then we have national civic movements at the level 2, which has the civil society organizations um, and the collective movements that which we see at the national and at our country level. Then, what I like to think is we have youth led initiatives. I have successfully implemented over 10 initiatives. Not all of them were youth led, but I do believe in the power of youth, and that is why I'm here. I totally stand for it. Youth development is the future. So, why is the youth important, like in today's world? So, I would like to really highlight the fact that we aged 15, between age 15 to 30 makes up about 40 to 44% of the global population. I'm so sorry, I forgot to put the source here, but this, I believe, is from the world data as well. And education is so important, as you already mentioned, one of you in the chats, that it has the capacity to increase 30%. It can might make us more productive, the youth, with access to education. Youth have the potential to drive the much needed change in the global society. How they do it? They do it through the youth led social action and community led projects. Moving on. So here, I mean, we do have a time limitation of 1 hour. I would have loved to gone through like to each of the sustainable development goals. But on the right hand side, you would see a QR code. It will take you to the UN website where you can learn about all the sustainable development goals, which are 17 in total. Each of the goals have 11 to 13 targets under it, and there are 169 total targets in total. So these are sustainable development goals by the United Nations. Now, I want you to really think on this. Can you think of how sustainable development goals are relevant to our topic of the discussion today? Why did we think of putting sustainable development goals in our slides? If you can just mention in the chat box, that would be brilliant. And do you think that if there's any connection between the concepts that we discussed today and to the sustainable development goals which you saw? Interesting question, right? Makes me want to think if there really exists a framework of some sorts to give this correlation. Please utilize the chat box and to tell us what you think. Hi, Morgana. That's okay. Welcome. All right. So you can take your time to think about it. And as I mentioned, we do have the time limitation. So I'm just going to focus on a couple of SDGs, and please utilize this QR code you see on the right-hand side to learn more about the Sustainable Development Goals. All right. So as I mentioned, we have 17 goals and 169 targets, and we will focus on SDGs 1, 3, 5, 6, and 16. Let's see what are these. So here you have all the SDGs. SDG 1 stands for no poverty. Number 3 stands for good health and well being. Number 5, gender equality. And then we have number 6, clean water and sanitation. And 16, the most, I would say, important with our presentation today, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Now, I have just mentioned some of the SDGs. It's not because only these SDGs have the concept of empathy and compassion within them. All the SDGs do that. But these are some of the prominent ones which I did go through the literature reviews, and I could see the sustainable development goals being more in focus and in parallel to empathy and compassion. So these are some of the targets you would see under each of these sustainable development goals, right? And I want you to invest a couple of minutes because we will not be discussing all of these in detail over here, but read it out and see how it really goes back to the pillar of empathy, sympathy, and compassion. And just to mention, when we are, reading some of the targets, it needs to be inclusive. It needs to focus and really uplift the situation of the marginalized, the inaccessible communities, and specifically the communities that reside in the war-prone zone and a disputed zone. So think about it. Moving on. This is one of my favorite slides from the whole PPT, the bottom-up approach. So you saw the pyramid that we had earlier, the blue one, and the right one has been inverted. Why I did that or why we did that is because it makes sense. We contribute and we constitute 44% of the global population. Of course, we can do a lot, and we should be at the top and having the steering wheel to us, right? So you would see the inverted pyramid really enlists some of the things that we can get ourselves engaged in. The right-hand side, open dialogues, IEC materials, and dipstick surveys. And the left-hand side has been focused on some of the domains and some of the skills that one can build and really becoming an asset to the society in really in need. Moving on. So this is so important. I would like to talk about all of these points if the time allots me, and please feel free again to utilize the chat box. What you think about the whole session. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? It's an open space to have a discussion, and these are once again a very subjective topics to touch base upon. Right. So we have some of the concepts and skills which are really, really important for us youth. First one being the empathetic leadership. Now, what is an empath or a leader who is empathetic? I would want to mention that I would not go into much of the details. Actually, I would like to hear from you. What do you think of what entails, or what do you think is an empathetic leadership about? If you can comment in the chat. So what I would like to mention is each one of us is a leader. You made a choice to be here and attend this session, or you might not have made a choice, or you're not. For people who are not here. So we are constantly making decisions and choices in our lives, and we are a leader. It just depends on, and it's just a matter of fact, a matter of time. We are making decisions and working as a community, which is really catering to the needs of the most, the people, the marginalized community, which really needs to, needs help from us. The concept of epistemic humility, it really states that we can never know what really one person has been through in their lives. So we can, as a leader, if we are leading, let's say, a team of 2 or 3 people, and some of them are behaving, or one of the person from the team is behaving a little derailed. We are so easy to judge them, but we don't know like why they are thinking or behaving in that way. So that's the concept of epistemic humility. I would like for you to do a little bit homework and Google what it really is. The next is effective empathetic communications. Now, I mean, a lot of times I have seen that when we are communicating with somebody, we are communicating and we are not even listening to them, and we just communicate to react. So if a person is telling a story of something, we are so like quick to jump in and like show our reaction and emotion, but it has to be a response. We forget it. And power of acknowledgement, to be an active listener at the third point, and acknowledge. It's so important to acknowledge in having an effective empathetic communication. Third is unlearning and relearning concepts, one of my favorite. I see myself as a learner for life. I really love investing my time in research and in learning about the concepts that I don't know about. And we need to unlearn biases. If there are 2 groups, and let's say I will not go into the example of politics, but if we have 2 preferences onto any of the domains and matters, we should come from a opinion or a point of view where we can also accept the matters and facts of the other party so that we don't have any biases. And then tuning into new ideologies and perspectives is equally important. Concept of intersectionality. I want you to do a little bit of research and know what intersectionality truly means. What is it? I want you to Google it. And it actually talks about the different aspects which differentiates us, and which really reasons out the obstacles that we face in our lives. For example, being an Indian, I am a Hindu by religion. I have been born and brought up in a middle class family, and I have been so privileged to acquire master's level of education, a master's in public health. But some of the Indians and some of the youth my age have not been have has are not born with that privilege of acquiring a master's level of education. So that's where the concept of intersectionality comes into play. And it really talks about the different aspects of our lives, which differentiates of about like what kind of obstacles we face in our lives. So we really need to, under that concept, we need to have open dialogues about different things from people from different, across the globe and from all walks of life. From a person who's working as a CEO, if we get a chance, to a person who is just 12-year-old and in school. It's so important to have discussion with everybody and attune to cultural sensitivity. We should always remember that we need to be really, really um, attuned to the cultural differences as well. Moving ahead, all right. So this is a breaker slide I would like to call like a fill-in slide, and you will see a QR code. So we are in the process of launching our free newsletter for youth like you who wants and who wishes to make the change in the society, who wants to upskill themselves and learn about the topics that you can see on the left hand side about community mobilization, advocacy, and so on and so forth. You are feel free to scan the QR code and just fill out the form for us. Thank you. Moving ahead. Okay, there's a little. Now, this is a very favorite organization of ours. Um, I have worked with Mr. Adonis Sir from Uganda. He himself is originally, I believe, from DRC and a refugee residing in Uganda. And he has created such a huge impact in his immediate local society. And all the pillars that we talked about, we discussed, and the skills that you can see over here, this is what he used to create the impact that you saw in the video, right? Um, Well, you can scan the QR code and just learn about your country. Moving ahead. So, for this particular session, we did a little bit of research, and I will not call it a fully fledged research um, because we were trying to get a grasp and understanding of what the refugee youth group and migrants are going through. We did use Google Form, but there was a high. I wish that there was a way that I could have connected with them, because most of the refugee groups, as we know, they do not have access to internet, and if they do, there it's very limited for the condition and region that they live in, right? Um, so, but we were able to grasp some of the findings and some of the, we were able to ask them a couple of questions. So this is our the key findings as you see here. So we asked them what's fueling the conflicts and community disputes. And when we asked, like, what is the cause of the conflicts in your region, these are the things that they stated. They said lack of employment opportunity and really non-existent job market for youth. There's widespread corruption and disrupted governance and poverty. Moving ahead, now, like these are the key findings. I mean, what is fueling the community and the conflicts? I'm getting back because I want you to connect the dots, right? This is what they think they are the reasons, right? In the next slide, we ask them, what are the solutions? What do you think can make a change and make a difference? These are the powerful suggestions and things that they provided us with. They want support from developed nations to bring in resources and insights. They want the formation of local leaders to come into play and influence the grassroots change. They want more job opportunities and career paths. They want certification courses which are easily available. And when I mean by trainings and courses, again, going to a view where we have courses available of them if they do not have internet accessibility as well. Awareness programs on human rights laws and regulations. But like I know, like there's still a lot of conflict, disparity, war, everything going on. But I'm so happy, and it really fills my heart with so much like pure energy that youth which are residing in these conflict zones and war regions are working seamlessly and are so dedicated, and they are acquiring knowledge and education, upskilling themselves in whatever capacity they can. And these are some of the pictures we received from them. Now, I would like to invite my co-facilitator Abdel again to really give us a deeper insight of what is happening in Sudan and take it from here. Thank you, Abdel.
Mm. Thank you very much, Srishti. And what a beautiful thing you said about empathy and compassion. How can they change and make connected society, make societies connect together? Uh, we all know that conflicts happen. So how can we prepare for them and let's protect our societies from disputes and things like that? So as a Sudanese currently living in Sudan, I have seen a lot of things in my country. Since April 2023, like I said, the conflict broke down, and over 10 million have been displaced by the violence. Families has displaced, and they have lost their homes. many are struggling to access basic services like food, medical supplies, and shelter. So, as a result of this war, access to essential services have been disrupted. Many communities are facing challenges. Is as much as there is no food, no medicine, and no basic necessities, and the Sudanese people and the Sudan's economy has deteriorated rapidly, further exacerbating the humanitarian crisis even more. With the country already in the treadmill, the war has accelerated its economic decline, affecting millions. So this violence has not only affected the displaced people physically, but also had led to significant social fragmentation. Communities that once coexisted peacefully has been torn apart by the conflict. And despite the devastating circumstances, I'll tell you this, the Sudanese people have shown remarkable resilience through empathy and compassion, and they have found ways to support each other and hold their communities together. And as you can see on the next slide, myself, me and my team members have seen those things that the Sudanese have done. Because despite though all of these things happening, we have collected some testimonials to tell you how Sudanese have gone through all of this and have seen how others can show their empathy and compassion. And if you can see in the next slide, those are five testimonials of people. Four of them are people who are displaced currently living in Sudan here. And one testimony is from a woman whose name is Hafsa, who's living outside in Sudan, this being displaced in Cairo, Egypt. So I'm going to take two of these and discuss it with you guys. So the first one I'm going to take is Muhammad Rabi'. He's from a Jazeera state. And during this conflict, he said that during the conflict, people were scared of hunger due to the lack of agricultural resources. Even though we had few crops, I saw neighbors sharing what little they had. The empathy among them helped us endure. Another testimonial from Jamila Umar from Umdurman, Khartoum state, which had never fled out of the Khartoum state during the conflict. She said that yes, we saw compassion through something called takia. And takia, this is a title which describe young men and women provided free food and drinks to those in need on the streets. She said that helping people with providing them with this, helping them to eat and get whatever they need without asking for help, because they can't ask for help, but they are desperately needing it. This is how Sudanese show empathy and compassion to each other. And during this conflict, when the hunger become a real threat and lack of agriculture, like Muhammad Rabi said, sharing what little they had, this collective compassion helped many of them to respect each other and to go on from this. So this is the key role of empathy and compassion, and how can they overcome conflict results. So going to the next slide, I'm going to discuss with you the obstacles, because while empathy, like I said and I mentioned, like while empathy and compassion have been vital in navigating through the challenges in Sudan conflict, there's some obstacles hinder their full realization, like lack of resources. I already mentioned that there is a little bit, like Muhammad Rabi said, there was a little bit of crops available, and there's no site for people. There's no resources for them to grow another crops because of the ongoing conflict. And although all of this, they have been showing empathy, but also lack of resources, it is an obstacle that need to be removed. Also, ongoing violence and displacement and health crises happened all across the country might hinder the people seeking to be peacefully attending each and speaking to each other. So as we've seen, empathy is important, compassion is very important too, but working together as youth, we have the unique power to harness both sympathy and compassion to make a real impact. By fostering empathy in our community and applying compassion principles, we can help heal in our communities. We can help heal the peace and end the conflicts and actually prevent it from happening. So let's not forget the words of Nelson Mandela. On the next slide, if Shisti could go in, we must not forget what Nelson Mandela said. He said that, and I quote, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Education, he didn't say weaponing, he didn't say defend yourself, he said education. So this quote reminds us that education, not just formal learning, but also the education of the heart through empathy, can be transformative. By sharing the knowledge and practice of empathy and compassion with others, we multiply our ability to create a more peaceful world. Education and empathy go hand in hand. They empower us to understand experiences of others and take meaningful steps to make a difference. And thank you very much for listening to me. I'll go with Richie. And before I'm going over here to Rishi, I have to remind you all, I'm a person who is actually displaced from his own home, but I will never ever lose the hope of believing in people, believing in how young people can change the world. So this is all for me, and Rishi, you can go ahead and end presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. And I'm so glad that we are already working in the process of having wonderful things coming right up. Great. What's next? Okay. So this is something that is going online. I mean, sorry, which is going right now. And we are in the process of having something huge, like a huge impact. And as I said in the pipeline, we can't really disclose a lot of information, but we do plan to have some courses which are recognized by the UN, especially targeted for the migrant, refugees, and people, youth from the war torn regions. And we are already in touch with collaborations with some of the key local organizations and also the international organizations as well. So, with that, if you would like to subscribe to our newsletter, remain connected, sign up, or are interested to become a part of us, please feel free to take a screenshot of this slide and take up your cameras or take the screenshot, as I mentioned, of the QR code and connect with us. Thank you so much for your time. With that, I will just invest whatever time we have if we can chat with. Oh my God, I see a lot of confettis. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. So very quickly, if um, if you would like to chat with us, if you would like to raise your hand and have, we can have you on board, and yeah, and you can speak. And if not, please feel free to utilize the chat box. And Abdel, you could put your LinkedIn here so people can connect with you. I'll put in mine, and I'll also put in my email ID so that people can connect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for attending the session. We do wish to remain connected, and yeah, sharing the link. Hello, Rahman. Yes, I would connect with you. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you, Samson. Lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Dr. Mansoor, Alamaja, Rebecca.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for attending this session with us today.
Yeah. I've also shared the link to the Google form if you would wish to remain connected with us, and if you wish to really subscribe to our newsletters, which are in the pipeline, so that we can, connect with each other better manner. And if you wish to, join the WhatsApp community, which we're trying to form, please feel free to, you know, really fill this form. Okay, with that, thank you so much. And we would like to close formally. I see, I saw Anam over here, but I think we are free to close it. Thank you so much.